to Pop This, the podcast where three women talk about pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen, Andrea Gin, and Andrea Warner.
Okay, I don't want to brag or anything, but I just had the best baked potato ever. And I thought...
That's so exciting.
That's a huge statement.
Yes.
Well, I think some people underestimate, you come home from work, you're tired, you don't know what to make or something like that. And I just threw that in the oven for an hour, took it out, and it was a huge, huge russet potato. And on the side, I roasted up a red onion with some garlic. Who am I?
Wow.
I don't know. Call me Jamie Oliver. And then I took the baked potato out, threw that on the top. I probably used way more sour cream than is probably, allowed or whatever. But I just ate it thinking, why don't we all just eat more baked potatoes? I don't know. Am I the only big fan or?
No. Oh my God.
No.
I love a good baked potato.
I feel like it's a concept that has been trying to take off for a while because I know that Alison Roman wrote about it, put a baked potato party recipe in her book, one of her cookbooks. But also I've seen a restaurant in downtown Vancouver that was that concept of you get a baked potato and then they just have dozens of toppings.
Yeah. Yeah. And now it's gone. And it broke my heart. Yeah.
Even though everybody that you talk to will say that they love a baked potato, no one went to that restaurant.
Oh, I did. I don't know about that. But
Jacket potatoes are
yes.
kind of a TikTok phenomenon right now. People,
Really?
it's bringing back the baked potato.
Wow.
I was not aware.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, man. Here I was thinking I was original. No, again, not original.
Well, Lisa, do you like kimchi?
Yes. Who doesn't like kimchi?
'Cause
Yeah.
Eric Kim, who's a recipe writer for the New York Times cooking section, and he has his own cookbook too that I've talked about on the podcast, but he has this amazing recipe that's just like a cheese and kimchi baked potato, and it's so good.
Really?
Yum.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Oh, yeah.
cool.
I would never have thought. When I used to go to that baked potato place, though, the variety, I wouldn't even have thought of. My favorite was the shawarma baked potato.
I'm a real sucker for a twice baked potato. I love a twice baked potato.
Do you do that? Do you actually?
Carlos
sit down
does it for
Yeah,
me.
I knew it.
Never do
I
it.
knew
Are you
it.
kidding me? You know I don't do anything.
I knew it.
I don't do
As
anything.
soon as that came out of
You
your
don't
mouth, I
you
knew
not
it.
even you don't even bake a potato, which is the easiest thing you could ever do.
Couldn't be me. Not me.
Well, of course you love a double baked potato because it's a big effort and you're not making
it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why the rest of us don't eat it, because it's a lot of work and we would never do that for ourselves.
Well, at some point in the future, I will note this twice baked potato is an envied potato, and I will have Carlos make it for us for a meal. It will be delicious.
Fabulous.
Oh, yeah. I've had them and I like them. I find I would not say no. However, I would say that a really classic baked potato is pretty great, though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Wendy's used to do a baked potato.
Yes.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
And they don't do it anymore because I haven't been at Wendy's.
I haven't indulged, but
They still have them because I've ordered it for my grandma before because she really hates all fast food burgers. She'll have a baked potato or she'll have their nachos with cheese sauce.
nice.
Anyway, so I've ordered that for her. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not good. And the problem I find so often is some people just don't bake the baked potato long enough.
Well, that's it. It's a tricky
you can't
thing.
Serve
You gotta
it starchy. It's got to be fluffy. You can't.
So
Gotta be
fluffy.
fluffy.
Yeah.
My husband Joe has said that when he was traveling in Europe when he was younger, he saw a baked potato mobile cart. And I wonder why someone hasn't done that for a food truck or something, because it seems
right.
I did see
an
that
idea that's ripe for a food truck.
I did see that on a British sitcom with Andy Samberg. Gosh, I'll have to look up the title of it. But it was Andy Samberg. It's an English comedy. He's a guy who marries this other guy's daughter. They meet on the beach. He's playing kind of a real hippie part. Anyway, they're living in England now, and they serve him a jacket potato, as Brittany said. and he loses his mind at how delicious this is. And then he takes the little bit of money he has and buys a cart, like a food cart of jacket potatoes.
To eat himself?
No, to go out for like a business.
So like a business?
Yeah, he's going into business for himself. And really, when you think about it, like what could be a cheaper thing to make than the jacket potato, right?
No,
Like,
your return on investment's pretty good.
Yeah.
Can I?
Well,
can
and
you
you're
guys-
on, like, you're not going to poison anybody. You're not going to poison anyone. It's so easy to cook.
Can I get you guys to clarify for me what a jacket potato is?
You just keep the skin on. Baked
Oh,
potato.
okay.
That's the jacket.
I see.
What did
know
you
what
think was going on? I like to imagine what was in your head.
Well, I figured it was something like that, but I wanted to make sure that it didn't have an extra fancy element that I was missing out on or whatever. Like I just
Like a cummerbund or something?
Yeah. The cummerbund.
Comes with a little tuxedo.
Just a tiny, the cutest tuxedo you've ever seen on a potato. No, you know what I love, and a lot of places don't make them anymore, and it kind of sucks, but like I really love a good potato skin.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's really hard to find now.
Yeah, like a good pubby,
Yeah.
really cheesy, bacon bitty
Yeah.
potato skin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even mind if there's no bacon bits on it, guys. I'm going to be honest, because like I can take them or leave them, but like
Totally.
I want cheese. And I don't want a ton of potato. It has to be a potato skin, not like a hunk of wedge potato because someone decided they didn't want to chop it down.
Sometimes I think the whole quest in life is to find ways and things to melt cheese on. Like
Absolutely.
that's all
Yes.
we're looking for.
Yes.
Right? It's just some way to eat cheese.
Cheese pull culture is just what we're all after.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever you're suggesting that we eat this evening, can I put cheese on it?
Absolutely.
Like, can it bubble? Oh, you're right.
For a while after, like, so last year when I was like healing after all the surgery and stuff, like I went through a real phase because I couldn't eat a lot of food. I had to really maximize what I put in my body. And I became obsessed with these Starbucks egg bakes, not the sous vide.
Everybody.
I love
not
those.
the sous vide eggs,
Oh.
not the sous vide. Those are good too. I like those too.
The rolls?
No, this is specifically, it's one type of thing that it's a spinach, potato, and cheese egg bake. So it's a little bit different than the sous vide ones that they do, which I also enjoy. But these ones are just like a little bit less wet, for lack of a better word. Anyway, but they don't have enough cheese for me. So I would get them delivered, and I can only, like, I would eat one for breakfast and then save the next one for the next day. But Carlos puts cheese on it for me and melts extra cheese on it for me, and then it's like so tasty.
And that's
Wait
love,
a
y'all.
second.
Yeah.
You're not melting your own cheese.
Of course I'm not. Wait, for a while.
But like, wait, can you not be trusted to use appliances or something? Like, what's the issue?
But, well, I just don't want to, and he does. So that's like
He
a division
wants
of
to.
labor.
He says, please,
What happens
how can
when-
I
when
get you
you're-
some cheese?
What happens when you're on your own?
I can do it, but I don't enjoy eating it as much. Like it takes some of the pleasure away from the process for me. I'll be honest.
I get it. I'm just going to say I get it.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. This is what he likes to do, and I like to participate in it, and we're both consenting adults in this arrangement. So
I haven't made a meal on a weeknight in 10 years. Andrea, I see you,
thank you, Brittany. Thank you.
and I stand with you.
I am so glad you're here. Well, you know what? Honestly, it's a good segue to what we're talking about, because really, isn't this movie all about finding people who understand you?
Aw.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
It's a
that
nicer
is.
way than what the movie did. Anyway, I'm Andrea Warner.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
I'm Andrea Gin.
And I'm Brittany Tiplady.
Yay! Brittany!
Yay!
You're listening to Pop
Welcome.
This, everyone, and welcome, Brittany. Thank you so much. You know, Brittany,
Thank you.
thinking about it, it's been like a long time coming, really, because I think you did one of the first interviews that we ever did as a podcast, like
Yeah.
about the podcast, when we were like starting out.
Yeah, I interviewed the three of you for Loose Lips Magazine, RIP, my old online publication many years ago. And Andrea, I also interviewed you a few years before that separately.
Yes,
I think for your first book.
Yeah, I think so
Yeah.
too. I think so too.
And then I've just been a listener and a fan ever since. So I feel very honored to be here.
Thank you
Oh,
so
well,
much.
thank you.
We're so excited that you're here. I really do delight in you. And I'm so excited for the things that you're doing now. I'm going to read your bio right now. I'm going to jump ahead.
Amazing.
I'm not even going to say what we're talking about as a film yet. I'm just going to read your bio right now.
Okay.
Brittany is a Vancouver-based writer, social media producer, and small business owner. By day, she's the co-founder and director of Loose Lips Media, a digital marketing agency that specializes in supporting screen-based initiatives. By night, she's watching movies, binging TV shows, and writing her Substack, We Must Discuss, a regular newsletter of pop culture, deep dives, personal essays, and recommendations for travel, beauty, books, and culture. Brittany, welcome.
Excellent.
Wow.
Thank you for
Are
having
you
me.
not the perfect guest on this podcast? My
You
goodness.
know, I won't deny it. I feel ready to be here.
It's all led to
I was
this.
born for this, honestly.
So
sorry, go ahead.
What made you decide to start your newsletter?
Well, I had a publication with my co-founder, Christy, Loose Lips Magazine for a long time. And I was a freelance writer for many years. And once our agency kind of took over our careers and became our full-time thing, I just wasn't able to find the time to pitch and write. And once we had to shut our Loose Lips Magazine and just go full forward with the agency, it was just hard to like keep that part of my life alive. And I love to talk about culture. I love to talk about what I'm into. And I wanted like a safe space to do that where I wasn't pitching it to someone else and I could just write it in my own way and kind of get my writing practice back and like sharpen those skills again and not feel like I'm putting myself out there to someone who's maybe going to take my stuff to the chop shop. I'm kind of ready to get back into the freelance world again, but it's been nice to just have this own corner of the internet that's mine to talk about things the way that I want to talk about them, and also have a place for really deeply personal writing to share and kind of have that safe haven for that. So it's been really nice and really fun just to talk about what I'm into in my own little Substack corner.
Amazing.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You also wanted to talk about this movie.
I so desperately wanted to talk about this movie. I'm so excited we're talking about this movie.
Yeah, it's almost as if we saved it for you. Like, I'm kind of surprised we hadn't done it already.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about challengers today, everyone, just to clear that up, just in case you did not know. And we're trying to like dig into some of these potential Oscar movies. We are recording the day before the Oscar nominations are announced, so we don't know. Maybe this is going nowhere. We have no idea. But I think it was such a buzzy movie last year, and now that I have personally finally seen it, I truly am so glad that we have a chance, the four of us, to talk about it.
Yes.
Because if I watched this alone and then I didn't have a chance to talk about it, I don't know what I would do.
It is a movie that begs to be discussed and kind of cracked open. I saw it when it first came out. I was on opening weekend, I think in April. And I wrote about it a bit in my newsletter, but I've been dying to like verbally get into it. So this feels very exciting.
So why did you go opening weekend? What was it about this movie that went, you must come see me?
The score. Come on.
You're a Nine Inch Nail, or what? I mean, like whatever, like a Trevor
Yeah,
fan,
just
and-
not,
yeah.
for sure, but also just like seeing that in the trailer, I was like, oh, instantly I'm in. I love Zendaya. Who doesn't? I love Josh O'Connor. And just seeing like a trailer of sex, sweat, love triangle. I actually love a sports movie. I'm there on opening weekend. I love a horny movie. I actually originally pitched to talk about Baby Girl, but here I am talking about challengers, and that's great as well. So,
You know, I've got to say, I was expecting it to be hornier.
yes.
Do you find it interesting that the playwright Justin Kuritzkis
Yep.
Is married to Celine Song, who
I
is
love
the writer
that.
of Past Lives?
Yes.
And then like each movie involves like a love
third?
triangle?
What happened to them? Something happened to them.
I think they went through something. They both survived it, and they both internalized it and reflected
And
in
they
this
made
writing.
great art about it.
Great art about
Like
it.
very
Yeah.
different art.
Extremely
extremely
different.
different.
Yeah. It's kind of almost like as if we are deciding that there's any kind of autobiographical element to it, it kind of is giving The Affair, where there was like it was shot from like the male perspective and the female perspective.
Okay.
And like his version is way hornier and her version is like way more intellectual and emotional.
That is such a great point, and I'm so glad you brought up The Affair, because it is something that I bring up any chance that I can get. And I am just obsessed with the way that show was written and shot, and I use it as an example all the time. Even if I'm like in an argument with someone and we're seeing something different ways, I'm like, we're having this affair moment where like I see it this way and you see it this way, and there's two truths happening here. And I think there may have been two truths for these writers and whatever love triangle they have found themselves in, and however they made art about it.
God, I want them to do a piece like for some kind of like podcast
Yeah.
interview where they like just talk about it and they hash it out like for
Yeah,
our
I want
edification.
context.
Like I want that.
What if they were on that HBO reality show, Couples Therapy,
Oh my God.
and they talked out whatever happened to them with Dr. Orna? Would watch.
That would, yeah. I would also like this could be why Jada gets to bring back the red table, is to bring these two to the red table so that they can all talk about how their relationships have. I have now created a full parasocial situation where I am going to be intimately following these two in ways that are extremely unhealthy for the next several years.
And wanting them to take it to the red table. Love it.
There's no more red tables,
Yeah,
is there?
I would just
Yeah.
love to hear like the analysis of it.
Yeah.
Like this is how do you reconcile the two versions of this story?
Because it's not coincidence. It can't be.
No, but I would love to hear them in dialogue with each other about these two movies and like, because which script was written first? Like, yeah, and do they ever write in any way together or like? Oh my God, I'm obsessed now.
Yeah, they weren't like I'm writing about a love triangle, so you cannot do something else.
Yeah.
They did not set those boundaries.
They absolutely did not. Oh my God. Okay, well we should at least talk about the background and synopsis before we and eventually Challengers itself. AG, do you want to read the background, please?
Sure. Challengers is a 2024 American romantic sports drama film directed by Luca Guadagnino
Yes.
and written by Justin Kuritskis. It follows the love triangle between an injured tennis star turned coach, Zendaya, her low-circuit tennis player ex-boyfriend, Josh O'Connor, and her tennis champion husband, Mike Feist, across 13 years of their relationship, culminating in the latter two's match on the ATP Challenger Tour. The film grossed $96 million worldwide. Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
And received highly positive reviews from critics. Among its accolades were 4 nominations at the Golden Globes, including Best Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy, where it won Best Original Score. That's from Wikipedia. And that makes sense with the original score thing.
Yes.
It was very inventive, very cool score.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, comedy or musical isn't really a category that I feel that this film fits into that well.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah, I don't.
I laughed, but
was-
probably at places where I wasn't supposed to.
It's just like The Bear, how The Bear is nominated in the musical or comedy category. It's very confusing.
Yeah, that's a good
I
point.
don't think I laughed very much in this movie at all. No.
Wait, I laughed so hard in the final shot. Anyway, that's getting ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, me too.
Lisa, do you want to read the synopsis, please?
Sure. Tashi Duncan, played by Zendaya, a former teenage tennis phenom, is now a coach. She's taken her husband, Art, played by Mike Feist, and transformed him from a mediocre player into a world-famous Grand Slam champion. To jolt him out of his recent losing streak, she has him play a challenger event, close to the lowest level of tournament on the Pro Tour, where he finds himself standing across the net from the once promising, now burnt-out Patrick, played by Josh O'Connor, his former best friend and Tashi's former boyfriend. Tensions run high, on and off the court, as old flames are reignited, competition builds, and love and careers hang in the balance It's anyone's game. From tribute.ca.
And I should have corrected this, but because I was just taking it from Tribute, he is not yet a Grand Slam champion. He's one away from a Grand Slam champion, and that's what they're trying to achieve. Anyway,
Right, okay.
that's an important point and I should have corrected that in the thing. But
And
anyway.
it's not anyone's game. I feel like it's Tashi's game.
It's entirely Tasha's game. Yeah. Okay, so we know that you saw it opening weekend, Brittany, but how do you feel about Challengers? What worked for you? What has made you want to talk about this movie?
Yeah, I saw it opening weekend and then I rewatched it a couple of days ago to refresh my memory for this conversation. Pretty much everything about this movie worked for me. The athleticism, that, like I said earlier, that incredible aerobic score, the performances, the thighs, such great thighs in this movie. The sexual tension.
This movie is for you.
The sweat, the dialogue, the camera angles. Like, I just thought it was incredible through and through. There's a few little things that didn't work for me, but my critiques are very mild. I wanted a little more sex. I wanted them to not be so... I felt that they were a little younger than they should have been. Like, I didn't really buy it that they had an 8-year-old and these huge careers yet. Like,
although Josh looked pretty weathered to be playing the teenager part.
I know.
yeah, him and Mike and Zendaya look quite young in this movie, and they are young. But I absolutely loved it and lapped it up both times I watched it.
Awesome. Okay, Lisa, it was, I think, one of your favorite movies of last year.
Was.
Tell us about
absolutely.
like your feelings.
Yeah,
about it.
mine too.
Well, I think what mostly, it was just unexpected, and I shouldn't probably been surprised I would like it. I really do enjoy the Luca, let me butcher his name too. Luca.
No, that's all mine.
Guadagnino. Guadagnino?
Guadagnino.
Guadagnino. Okay, Guadagnino. Okay,
Apologies, Luca, if I just switched it up as well.
I just, I have really, the films I have seen of his, Bones and All, and Call Me By Your Name, I loved both of those films so much, and I haven't seen Queer, but that's on my list to see soon. But I sort of put it off because I wasn't really excited about a tennis movie. Like, I like sports movies, but the whole tennis thing, I was just like, I don't know, tennis. And then I started watching it, and it was so different. I mean, yes, we know love triangles, we know sports movies, but there was something.
We've seen Saltburn.
Yeah. There was something so unique about the story, something watching really competitive people and how much work it is and who you become and what your life looks like. It was just like a fascinating story that I'd never heard before. And I just wanted it to go on and on and on. Like, I just would have kept watching it no matter how long it was. And that's weird for me.
Well, I was going to say,
like
you were not salty that it was 2:20?
No, I know. Wow. Strange, right? I was.
Wow. It's the score.
Maybe
score
it was.
You.
Yeah, I just felt they were super interesting characters that I didn't really know very much about. There was like the weird sort of bleeding of when you're that kind of athlete, how it bleeds into how you live your life and how it seems that it would be almost impossible to have proper relationships. It just seems like if you're that competitive, like it just seems that all of that desire for being the best and expecting the best of that other person, like how could you have a proper relationship with them is what I would say.
Fascinating. Thank you so much. AG, how did you feel about it?
Well, first I'm going to say I'm glad like Lisa and Brittany are here to love this movie. Because, I mean, here's what I'm going to say. Like, when I think about it in its parts, like, yeah, I recognize that it's an extremely well-made film. I recognize it's inventive storytelling. I see how the cinematography is very cool and beautiful, and the acting performances are really great. And like all of these elements, I can acknowledge that they're all excellent. But for whatever reason, I never really got into this movie watching it. I was kind of like not that interested in the tennis elements of it. I didn't understand. Like, it didn't make sense to me that Zendaya's character would just be interested in these two men like for 13 years.
I'm high-fiving
only?
you through the internet.
That like just really bugged me throughout. Like
Yeah.
that part of the story didn't make sense. And yeah, there's like a disconnect. Like I'm not really interested in tennis. It felt like watching a music video that was 2 hours and 20 minutes long. And at the end it was just like so slapstick funny. And at the end it was like, okay, I guess this is just it's a fun movie. It's fine.
It is fun.
And then I watched it on Amazon Prime, and like Saltburn immediately queued up
as the
to play
recommend-
autoplay afterwards.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I get why Lisa loves this film now. I see it.
Because I was other people like Saltburn besides me, by the way.
I love Saltburn, Lisa.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is good. No, and so I am somewhere, I think, somewhere literally in between all three of you. Whereas like I also can acknowledge all of the things about it that like are fine and good, but I could not really truly be compelled by any of the characters that much. Like even though in my heart of hearts, obviously I like love Tashi and support her and whatever, what we're told about who she is and what Zendaya brings to the role, there is no way this woman wastes 13 years of her life on these two sacks of skin. Like, I'm sorry, but like I was utterly
Sexy sacks of skin.
unconvinced. But you know what? They're not for me.
But
Neither
why
of those men are for me.
Okay, but why don't you think that?
Because I just think that she would actually think better of herself. And like, I know that she knew she could mold art into something like more. By the time we get to the point where she gets injured, she already knows that Art's the better player, but she's already like communicated her attraction to Patrick because she's the one having like the affair with him. And Art is, you know, trying to like sort of wiggle in there. And I like the tension of all three of them being sort of kind of snaky towards each other in their own way. Like, I actually enjoyed that. And I think some of the writing is really good there. I thought when Patrick confronts her and says that he's not just going to be like her adoring fan, like that he is her peer. And like, I like that confrontation. I like those pieces. But I just did not buy that she would pour all of her passion for the game, this game that she loves, that she says at its peak is a relationship, like that she would pour all of that into these men who are both ultimately like fine, but not champions.
I think that, to me, I saw it as Tashi is spinning plates, and the plates are the boys, and she likes to be in control. And tennis is also about control. Being an athlete is about control. And when she lost control with her injury, she could control Art's career. She could make her career happen through him. And then life continues to happen. And then suddenly you're getting married and you have the baby and he's having the career and now you're on a billboard together. And Patrick kind of shows up sprinkled here and there throughout the 13 years. But I think that this is a movie about control and about Tashi's control. And I think I think Art gave tennis back to her. And she did with that what she could.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good reading of it, and I think that makes me appreciate it more. I just still think she would probably go for someone who has more talent than Art, who actually loves the game.
Which I think she regrets not.
And isn't fully in love with just her. Like, she has never needed someone who worships her. Like, that's just not...
No.
And she knows that from the very beginning. So how she ends up saddled with Art is wild to me. Inconceivable, actually. Even if she, like, is trying to, like, live her passion for tennis through him, we see how dissatisfying that is. We see how she, like...
Yeah, she's super disappointed.
She's super, like, just, like, not in this at all, you know? And maybe if I cared a bit more about them, that would be more compelling to me, but, it just wasn't really grabbing me.
Yeah, I feel like we didn't... Zendaya was great in the role, but I don't feel like we got to know that character that well. Like, besides, like, you know, her coaching of tennis or her love of that sport. Like, you don't really see her interacting with her child that much. Mm-hmm. She does, like, there's just kind of like, I don't know. I don't think that Tashi was fleshed out very well for me. And I didn't really have any attachment to the character and didn't have any investment in what happened with this story.
I think coming from a dance background and growing up my whole life with really serious athletes, I could see so many of my like former childhood and teenagehood peers in her, of like girls who, or guys, even, it doesn't matter, like any person who's so laser focused on their craft, specifically if it's physical, that there isn't a lot going on other than that. Like every dancer I ever knew in that level, like that was what they ate and slept and breathed and what all their relationships were about. And it was always about, everything was about competition in the end. So I saw a lot of that in her and I was like, yeah, I see you, girl. I've met a lot of people like you.
But when you hear athletes go through their schedule, like figure skaters, for instance, I mean, there is no room for anything else.
No.
And they'll talk about that. They'll say, like, I know I sacrificed all of my teenage years for this sport, right? That it's, if you're not actually training or competing, you're working out, you're trying to get some school in, you're trying, you know. And I think the fact that she didn't spend very much time with her child seems to kind of make sense to me.
Me too. And
Because,
she said,
yeah.
I don't want to have, I'm going to school because I don't want my only skill set to be how to hit a ball with a racket. And she was cognizant of that. Like, that's how it goes when you become an athlete. Try as she might. That was still her.
Yeah.
thing.
It felt like she did start off like that, but then stuck with tennis. But also I felt like I wasn't invested in their success or who she ended up with and like any of the storyline. It just, I don't know. The story just didn't mean anything to me. And it was just like this kind of jumping around in a timeline, which I get is like a tennis ball going.
I thought you were going to say love too, but okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It seemed like a pretty thing to look at, but I didn't,
sure.
I had zero investment in any of the characters in the story.
Yeah, for some reason I did a lot. I don't know why. I really don't.
It's the thighs.
Yeah, and I think it was just too that, you know, we got a chance to see that she really was with the wrong guy, right? Like, and I know what you're saying, like, why did she hang out with those two? But it wasn't supposed to be that way. And I think it just ended up like that. And that's an interesting thing too.
And I think maybe it wasn't just those two. Like, this was an isolated story to an isolated triad. Like, we don't know what happened in the last 13 years with other men and other relationships for them too as well. We were just so laser focused on what was going on with these three in this timeline. And in the end, we still don't even really know what happens with these three. Is Tashi out and are the boys back in together? We don't know.
Right, yeah.
It ends exactly as it starts. So, and that's what I
think part of it too is that Josh O'Connor, I associate him so much now with the young Prince Charles role on The Crown that I can't shake it when I see him in other things.
Oh, I had no idea.
That's so fair. Yeah, that's so fair.
I mean, I guess like I felt like I was promised more threesomes and I wanted it to be more queer. God, it was so wet with sweat. I really didn't. It was hot. From the opening shot, I was so repulsed. I was just like, I felt like I was landing in my mouth all the time and I was gagging. Like, it was the absolute ridiculousness of their music video tornado parking lot sex.
Yeah, that
moment.
was wild, wasn't it?
Just the I felt like I was in a Shania Twain video, and I don't mind that part, but I want, like, if you're gonna do that, you score it with Shania Twain. And then we get this like amazing final moment, and like on the final 15 seconds of the film, I just really paid off for me in a way that I will never forget this movie now, because I cannot overstate how much I love that ending. When you're watching them so into it and they're having that moment that like they start off the film with, where they like, Tashi explains that's a relationship in that 15 seconds of tennis she had with that woman. And they're finally in it and they're like just going back and forth. And then Art does that absolutely ridiculous leap, and then they just crush into each other, holding each other, and they've had this like moment of understanding, and Tashi finally sees that these like two idiots that she has been involved with understand the thing that she loves, and finally, like, in all honesty, the rest of the film might be that the three of them find a way to coexist as a triad. Like, that's great. I would not be disappointed in that future, I guess, but I love the ending of this movie.
Me
the ending
too.
of this movie makes everything else that comes before it a little bit easier for me to stomach. Like, I'm not mad that I spent 2 hours and 20 minutes with it.
I walked out of the theater like punching the air after that last scene. Because you feel like, especially the way that it's shot, it's so imaginative, the way that they did the cinematography on this, but you feel like you are the tennis ball just being like swatted back and forth between these guys, like feeling like their intense energy towards each other, towards winning this game, and her like bubbling anger and frustration and not knowing what's going to happen. And you're at the edge of your seat and you don't know who you're rooting for by the end. You just want to find out where this game is going to take them. Yeah.
And you know what? And I don't know how much the writer knew about tennis, or how much of the story he wanted us to spend lots of time talking about the dynamics of tennis and why that for this three people. But there is also like with tennis, it's such an endurance. And when do you give up? Right? It can go on for like 3-4 hours, and and then it can start over again. Right? The scoring is like you start, like you've got to back and forth. And so I wonder if that kind of snuck in like to the story of their relationship. Is like, when do you give up? When have you decided that you're tired and I can't do this anymore?
Yeah. I think it's like she says, tennis is the relationship. Sex is tennis. Tennis is sex. Tennis is also about endurance. And so is, whatever that they're going through. And I think it was like Tashi's last straw. I think it was about, in the end, Art says to her, I want to retire. I'm at my wit's end. I can't do this anymore. But I really think it's about her. It's her last straw and how much she's going to give into this relationship and how much of herself she's going to give. And is she going to, this is kind of a spoiler, but is she going to coach Patrick, and is she going to, go behind her husband's back and make that move and choose herself again, or choose her love of the game again, because her husband isn't giving her the love of the game anymore.
But it's also very frustrating when it comes down to that stupid thing where, like, they're both in the beginning of the movie, like, it's Art wants to know if Patrick and Tashi have had sex, and like he asks to like make a sign with the racket and like put it in the that thing, and then it comes back to play in the end of the film as well, and it's all just about like holding her up as a prize, not a person. And like it's like I get very frustrated with this film sometimes, because even though like Tashi is sort of one in control in a lot of ways, and she's the center to all of this, she's also still just like this prize for these two to fight over. And I don't find that that compelling. Like, I want more of a movie about like Tashi.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like, why does she bother with Patrick? Like, she's a coach of a top player. She could coach anybody next.
Well,
I think it would be an achievement for her. It's the thighs.
I mean, I feel like they have that sparring thing where like he sort of respects her, but he also doesn't really respect her. And like again, he never really talks about how great she is at tennis. He's always talking about how beautiful she is. Like, I feel like and I mean, obviously she's beautiful, but like, I just feel like he really never sees like the whole her. And yet at the same time, he does understand her better than Art understands her.
Yes.
But that's like, how limiting is it that those are the two men that we know of in her life?
They like
those are the only options.
He didn't respect her game. I mean, that's why they broke up in the first place, was that huge fight that they had in her dorm because she wanted him to bow down to her a little bit, and she wanted him to recognize that tennis came first, and that even though they had been separated for a little while and they were starting to kind of get intimate in the dorm, like, she was still talking shop, and he wasn't interested, and she found that unnerving. But I think there's something about him, because he doesn't give her that gratification, that makes her wanted more from him. Whereas Art almost gives her too much, and I feel like it almost gives her the ick.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine marrying the ick.
She kind of married the ick, even though I love him.
But here's the other thing. So you're not convinced that she would be with these two guys.
No.
How do you feel about Tom Holland?
I love Tom Holland.
Okay.
I have loved Tom Holland for a long time. And the reason, I don't...
It's
like,
because
his
of the lip sync battle. I understand.
It was the lip sync battle.
It is for everybody. I know.
On.
They say what's a woman's Roman
Empire.
Empire? It's that.
When he commits to doing Umbrella with that kind of dedication that, honestly, Zendaya deserves. Like, she does deserve someone who's going to pour themselves into a performance. And I feel like the two of them together have, sort of a personal commitment to excellence that I really want to support.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, just checking.
He also doesn't do it for me. I am not the most into any of these types of men, but I understand that relationship better than I understand any of the relationships happening in this film, except for, I will say, some of the sort of some of the conversations between Patrick and Art are fascinating. Somewhere in here, there is a movie where I care about these people because I did watch the whole thing. You know what? Maybe if they'd given me more threesomes, maybe I would have been okay. I didn't know I was that cheap, but it might be the case.
I also feel lightly visually traumatized by the knee breaking scene.
Oh, brutal.
That has scarred me for life. I wish I had turned away from the screen at that point.
Yeah, that was hard.
I would love to talk about the lighting in this movie, because I think that the way that they lit Zendaya was so beautiful. That scene where they're on the beach, it's near at the top of the movie. They're on the beach. They met her at that party.
Zendaya is so beautiful. Yeah.
And the way that they lit her skin when she's in that totally era appropriate kind of Le Chateau dress.
Yeah.
And her shoulders and the highlighter, the makeup and the lighting, the way that they lit this absolutely stunning Black woman in that scene. She just looks like this ethereal mermaid. And you're yeah, who wouldn't be obsessed with her? She is amazing. I feel like they did such a good job showing how her allure and how powerful she was physically.
Certainly had better dance moves than the rest of the tennis club.
Certainly.
I also did really appreciate that her backhand looked pretty wicked. That's the thing about I don't know a lot about tennis, and I still don't know how to count the games. Even though I took tennis lessons as a kid, still don't know how to count the games. But watching Zendaya do a backhand with both hands on that racket and just really giving it, that was a pleasure.
Yeah, I believed her as an athlete.
Oh yeah, I did too. I just don't. I mean, I'm still surprised I like this, even though I like sports movies. I don't find most sports movies, though, quite as focused on the unhealthy competitiveness that it creates in you as this movie. I just felt like this was a story about people being eaten alive by something that at one point in their life they actually liked.
It was Black Swan without the horror.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't want to be an athlete at all. I have no interest. When I was a kid, I was a competitive swimmer, and I hated it. It was just, I would go to school. I would swim in the morning, and then I would go to school. And then I would go right to the pool and swim again after school. And then I would go home and have dinner. And I don't know if I had time to do anything else, go to bed and start again.
Yeah.
And then on the weekend, it was swim meets. And I don't remember ever saying, I'm having a really good time. Not once. I don't know why I did it for so long.
Dance was my life. Ballet was, I danced more than I think adults work a full-time job all through high school. So, and I did love it so much. But I think now as an adult looking at, zooming out, I see so much of my, like I said earlier, my young adulthood and childhood in these athletes they're just so laser focused on on one thing, and it's really hard to have healthy relationships and be a healthy person when you're so in it.
Well, it's your whole life, right? It is your whole life, because you have to sleep a lot. You have to eat properly. There's no room for sort of like cutting loose with a group of friends or anything like that. Like, you can't. If I was going to a swim meet on the weekend, that meant we were getting up, my whole family, at like 5 or 6 in the morning to drive to these ridiculous pools. And so I'd have to be in bed by 8 or 9 on a Friday night. Like, that was a lot of my teenage years. So,
do you enjoy watching swimming now? Like, if you're watching the Olympics, do you like it? Like, I love to watch ballet.
Yes and no, because what I would say is I find that I know that there tends to be swimming stars. Like, we had Summer McIntosh here in Canada. But I find the sport now is not competitive. Like, they're all the same, right? They all have the same coaches. They all tend to have the same body shape. They all tend to have the same swimsuit. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just seems to me that the sort of interesting part of competition has kind of got out of that sport. Because when they talk about where they train, they're all training at the same place.
Right.
You know, like, there's only 1 or 2 places they can possibly train. So I don't know. I don't find swimming to be as exciting as other sports to watch, for sure.
Interesting.
AG, what about you? You were a figure skater.
Yeah, well, I was going to say about this movie, it doesn't seem like a sports movie to me, really. Like, I know, obviously, it's about tennis, but we don't really see that traditional journey of someone trying to do something and usually succeeding at the end. And I know that's very, a tired, story probably with sports movies, but it turns out it's something I like, because I kind of like, I was looking for it here. I was kind of looking for, like, are we on a sports journey? Where are we going?
You missed the formula.
Did you want a locker room talk? Like,
I wanted to see someone, like, win something. I don't know.
We got the sauna
It's a little cliche.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
It's cliche, but it turns out that it scratches an itch with sports movies.
I mean, there's a reason why they make them and why we like them, for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, I do think that there's something, like, we might have seen something that told us a bit more and made it a bit more believable about, like, Tashi's investment in art if we had seen a bit of the coaching. Like, we only get like the briefest little moments, and he's already on the other side of, like, his huge success, and this is his come down. And, like, we're not invested.
I do agree.
His career.
You know what? Now that you say that, like, I think, like, the 2 micro things that didn't work for me are that I found Tashi and Art to feel a little young for where they were in their career, especially as parents of a kid that seemed to be like 8 or 9 when, like, Zendaya's actually only like 28. And I'm like, she didn't have a kid at 20. Like, that's not in this story. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And I would have liked to have seen her coaching more, actively coaching, not, like you said, kind of pulling back because her husband's in the dumps. But I would have liked to have had that moment of them walking into the arena together and feeling like she was more on his team, I guess. It felt like they were never on the same team. Yeah. And I didn't notice when I watched it a second time. I watched it with my husband, and so I had already known the story, obviously, and he was like a little confused as to what was going on at the beginning until you see them on the billboard together and you're like, oh, okay, I got it, they're a duo. But you don't really feel that for quite a while.
Yeah, and you don't really have a sense of, like, why they're a duo, because her career never happened.
Yeah,
like, why is she in the ad? Like, she's amazing and she's an incredible coach, I guess, but, like, we don't.
I don't see coaches in ads.
No. Maybe
I don't know if you guys noticed how attractive she is. Maybe
I did notice.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Fair
So
enough.
there might be a bit of that.
Maybe
Yes.
that's. But I mean, like for her, like for Tashi as a character from whom we understand, I feel like that would be adding to the hollowness of this whole experience.
Yeah, I don't think this is a movie about anyone having fun at all.
No.
Like, no.
Except I had a lot of fun watching it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like watching people get tortured in a weird way.
Yeah.
With, like, a DJ playing every 8 seconds.
For the tension.
That is a great score on the treadmill. I will tell you guys that.
When you described the music as aerobic, I was like, yes, that is exactly what it is. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we do like to wrap it up and say, does Challengers pop? Brittany, you are our guest. You get to answer first.
Challengers pops for me.
Great. Thank you. Lisa?
It pops like when you open up a new can of tennis balls.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Great job. AG.
I think it pops if you liked Saltburn, then it pops. If you didn't like Saltburn,
That is a bird right there.
then it's not gonna pop. for you.
That's its own salty burn right there.
Yeah, right,
Yeah, it pops enough for me that I absolutely, because I love the last 20 seconds so much, I encourage everyone to like take the time to make it through the first 2 hours and 19 minutes and like just get to that last 20 seconds because that's wow. What, oftentimes endings of films are so disappointing. And this is maybe one of the first times in the history of all the movies I've ever watched where I'm just like, it's worth it for the last 20 seconds.
Okay,
I've
wow.
never said that before.
That's really cool. I love that.
I'm
Yeah.
so happy about the last 20 seconds.
It's like somebody had never had sex and you go, just like, wait for the last 20 seconds.
Yeah.
It's so worth it.
In all
Yeah.
honesty, I think this was the climax I had been hoping for
There
because
you
I was
go.
denied so much sex in this film. We also love to leave our episodes on something else we recommend. Brittany, again, as our guest, I would love to invite you to go first.
Yeah, I am watching Slow Horses on Apple TV right now. I am very late to the party. We just wrapped up season 1, but I'm absolutely loving it. It is like an excellent British MI5 spy drama. It is very clever, a really rousing performance, and it's a show that I don't pick up my phone to look at all while I'm watching. I feel like that's a great testament. So Slow Horses.
That
on
is a
Apple
great.
TV.
It's like you should start ranking it on 0 phones to 5 phones. Is how often you picked up 0 phones. You didn't even pick it up once. You love it so much. Wow, highest honor, dude.
Excellent.
Yeah. AG, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm going to recommend a show. It's a movie called The 6888 on Netflix, starring Kerry Washington. And it's a war drama about an all-black, all-female battalion in World War II who are tasked with sorting through a 3-year backlog of mail.
Wow.
17 million pieces of mail that hadn't been delivered to soldiers. And it's based on a true story. And I think it's just like a really important historical thing that we should all learn about and watch because nobody had ever heard of this battalion until Kerry Washington made this movie. And some of them are still alive and they're shown at the end of the movie. And it's a very beautiful and touching story about, like this amazing thing that they contributed to the war effort in World War II. And it's one of the few like war movies that I feel like that's watchable for me.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Yeah, it's not my genre, but that one sounds
Yeah, it's
good.
not my genre either.
Yeah,
So.
amazing. Okay, thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, I mean, okay, when we're speaking of late to the party, I think my pick from 1974 wins. But this book came out this year that I think a lot of people might have heard, Eve and Joan, about Eve Babbitt.
Oh, yeah.
And Joan Didion. And I thought, that will be interesting. I've read most of Joan Didion's work, but I'd never read anything by Eve Babbitt. And she sort of is a name that kind of came up because I love, tawdry Hollywood stories. Yeah. Anyway, I thought, well, now's the time. So on Spotify, they have the audiobook of Eve's Hollywood, which is her first book. And so it's a memoir of her growing up in Los Angeles, specifically going to Hollywood High, and all of the different characters that came into her life and the different people. It is unbelievable.
Oh, amazing.
Like, it is her writing, when she gets on a roll trying to describe somebody's outfit or who they were or their personality, it is astounding. So anyway, absolutely love it. The audiobook is fantastic. And she has, I think, 5 more other books. So, I'm going to get to all of those before I get to the Eve and Joan. And then in the new Vanity Fair, the woman who wrote the book about Eve and Joan found, because she was given this archive of Eve Babbitt's, she found a letter where there was a reference made to Joan Didion's first love. And so there's a big piece on this man, this mysterious man. And anyway, I love all these stories. I could just, eat them all up. So there you are.
Awesome. I'm going to recommend some new music. Local musician Devours is in his new era. It's sports car era. And he's like, his first song, it's not first song, but anyway, sports car era, the title track came out like last week or a week before. It's great. It's so fun, but it's also all about like the difficulties of existing in Vancouver. So it's like a fun sound juxtaposed with these extremely realistic lyrics and sort of like, I don't know, I think about it as like sort of heavy industrial goth glam dancing for our collective liberation, and it's great.
Wow. Okay.
I think he's got an album release show coming up in March. But yeah, just go listen to Devours. You can listen on Bandcamp, and the new track, the title track for the new forthcoming record is called Sports Car Era.
All right. Like it.
Excellent.
Yay.
I'd like to hit my sports car era too, but I seem to still be in my Matrix era. So,
That's a good
good
era.
practical sedan.
That's an excellent practical era. Yeah. Brittany, it's been so fun to have you with us.
Oh,
Thank you
Dream,
so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. The pleasure is all mine. Oh.
Honestly, it's nice to see you guys on one side of the net, AG's on the other side of the net, and I want to be the line person. I was obsessed with the line person calling the game.
Me too.
I love them. I don't know anything about them, but I'm going to go look them up because I forgot to do that. But I thought that they were just so excellent.
And if anyone wants to send me a late birthday gift, I will accept the I Told Ya Loewe shirt from Challenges.
Oh my God, it's so
Just
good,
putting that out
right?
there.
That
Yeah.
I told you shirt, or told you, yeah, so
Yeah,
good.
those are good. Hey, is that what it's Loewe? So
Yeah.
that's a really expensive.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Accepting gifts at this time.
Amazing.
Well, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Brittany, for hanging out with us. You
you for
can.
having
Do you want people to come find you?
Yes, you can subscribe to my Substack, We Must Discuss, at substack.com, and follow what we're up to at Loose Lips Media.
Perfect. And you can, rate and review us 5 stars.
Always
and you can
5
email
stars.
us. And I will say a shout out to oh my God, the name fell out of my head, but a lovely Pop This listener who saw me at the Illusionist show because I was doing some merch for the Illusionist show, and let me know that they had really appreciated. They're the ones who emailed us about how happy they were with our Agatha All Along discussion, and that like Carlos had gently sort of explained a few things. And
Yes.
they anyway. Shout out to that listener. I'm sorry I didn't look up your name. I could have and I didn't, and that's just where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
But thank you for listening to Pop
But
This.
we'll call you Sue. For no reason. At all. Yeah, and thank you all for listening. Thank you to Andrea Gin, our co-host and producer, and Brittany. Thank you so much.
Thanks for
Thank
It was a
joining
you.
us.
pleasure. Yeah.
Yay.
They were excellent.
Thank
So
you guys
great.
so much. That was so much fun.
Game, set, match. There we go.
Good tennis.
Bye, everybody.